Welcome to the future. Welcome to Bitcoin Bitumers this afternoon, especially welcome to BitMe at BM. It is November 19th, 2024, and this program is the anniversary. It is a very special date for the entire BitMe team and, of course, for the whole community because we have to share many new things with you. Today, we have special guests that we were all very eager to see. As you know, when they come, it's good news. As always, Giovanni is also with us. How are you, Giovanni? Good afternoon. How are you?
Hello, how are you, Javi? Hello to the Bitumers community. The truth is that it's amazing to be here at this moment, fulfilling and celebrating in some way with all the Bitumers this third anniversary, as I have been reading a lot on the Telegram channel and other communication channels. The truth is that we all share that excitement in the community.
Well, we will introduce the guests in a moment, but first of all, we want to thank the Castellón Sports Club for the support and backing they have given us to BME after what happened this month, as you know, at the end of October with the Dana in the Valencian community, where we organized to raise funds and help on the ground. More than $410,000 has been raised, and we want to thank everyone who participated. We moved the anniversary for...
Yes. Oh, no, sorry. I was saying that we moved the anniversary. I just thought you were going to finish there. It was to indicate what that is, that we will go by sections and will respond precisely to everything related to each section. If you have any questions, we will leave them for the end so that they can understand the whole concept of what we are going to talk about. Sorry for interrupting you there.
Yes, correct. We will introduce Leif and Neil, who are also joining us this afternoon. How are you, Leif? How are you, Neil? Welcome.
Nothing. Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here. You all know that I love being here with all of you. And as Javier mentioned earlier, it's good news to have some updates, especially for the third anniversary of BM, which I think is quite a cool challenge, to have 3 years of a token like this platform that has grown so much. Well, we will review a bit of the utilities, but it has been amazing this last year, without a doubt.
Well, I'm very eager to hear you. How about you, Leif? How are you? Well, imagine great, really. It's been 3 years. As you said, in the end, we have our headquarters in the Valencian community. What has happened in the Valencian community has been dramatic, but it has been incredible how society has organized itself and how from BME we have also been able to provide support so that society could collaborate and make donations in cryptocurrencies, which have actually appreciated in value during a period of revaluation through the organizations that will provide assistance. A large amount of money has been raised, and on the opposite side in Alicante, in the Valencian community where we have our headquarters, the Castellón Football Club has joined in, organizing a similar fundraising effort. Both communities managed to help the center in Valencia, but overall it has been great, really, super well. Here, we do not stop working even though it is a holiday. It has been 3 years of a roadmap that we decided to start when we launched the ICO with the release of the cryptocurrency, so that with all those funds, we could create, I don't know if some of you remember what platforms we had back then. Very good from a regulatory standpoint in terms of transparency, so that people could sleep peacefully, a phone support, but there was much to do in terms of product. Since then, just imagine the card has been released. The interest topic with BMIR has come out. The advanced trading platform has been launched, and we now support more than 300 cryptocurrencies constantly. We just launched a little while ago the Tuesday of News, where more updates are coming, which, by the way, I recommend people to take a look at, where more updates and new listings have come out. It's amazing, the topic of tax analysis for free so that you can have a tax report. A bunch of products that have been worked on, as we mentioned, in a constantly evolving roadmap. Now, little by little, with this upcoming MiCA regulation, we will have the capacity to enter other markets, something we couldn't do proactively until now and advertise. Now with the MiCA license, we can go all over Europe. And also, as you are seeing on social media, we are working in Latin American countries, especially now in Argentina, where both Javier and Giovanni have been with more team members. And you have told us that it has been an amazing experience and that we have received a very good welcome. So 2021, we do not stop working, but today is undoubtedly a day to celebrate together.
Well, fantastic summary. Also, there is something, Leif, that you are going to tell us later when Neil shares the details of a recent success we have had at BME. So I'm very eager to hear you. As Leif said, these have been 3 years of work, development, implementation of utilities, adding value to the token so that we can enjoy benefits. Now we are using it. I use it every day. I was telling the 3 of them earlier, I said I'm going to buy some candies now, and I just can't stop using the BitMe card because of all the advantages it has and its interaction with the token. But well, I don't want to ramble on. I would like us to start the presentation if you want, Neil, and for you to begin, because what you told us yesterday honestly impressed me, and I am eager to hear you again.
Yes, I think in this sense, Javier, it is sometimes important to look at things a bit retrospectively and take these moments to say, hey, let's take a picture of how the platform is, everything it does, everything that has been done, even news about what will come, which Neil will tell us now. Because when you see the picture, you say, wow, totally.
No, it has been a spectacular advancement in products, but above all, and today being a special day for BM, the interaction that has been achieved for the token with the entire platform, in addition to the gamification of Space Center. So I think there is a lot of work, and if we look back 3 years, we would all have signed to be where we are today and with the projection we have ahead. So if you want, we can start with that and discuss it openly. Giovanni, Leif, everyone in the chat, if you want to leave questions or anything you want Neil to clarify or elaborate on, just let us know.
We will have to stay alert because throughout the conversation, some things that are about to come out will emerge and there will be some surprises.
Correct. In fact, we have made many friends throughout this journey, even just now. Several people were writing to us in the chat, including the Mobility Center, who told us congratulations and that they continue to support us throughout this journey.
Perfect. So if you want, we can start at the end. In the next slide of the presentation, we will see a bit about the topics we are going to divide, including the last year in numbers we have, the topic of Space Center, reflecting a bit on what you are discussing. I don't know if you remember when Space Center was born, which was not one of the best births in the world, and I just read it on Telegram a few days ago that we wouldn't know what we would do without Space Center because of the connection it has made, and the impact on all the products and services is tremendous. The gamification that allows you to level up with the missions has been a resounding success over the past year, I would say almost 2 years, and we are going to explain a bit how that has impacted the benefits for the token holders, which in the end is what we are always trying to do, to create utilities so that those token holders see, as Javier mentioned earlier, the value in BM. Let's also talk a bit about the blocking of BM regarding how these first months have gone since it was launched. We will remember the topic of the holders' t-shirts, and if you recall, we closed the deadline yesterday. We withdrew the $5 for shipping costs, but we will now discuss some small points and finish the live with updates. Therefore, if I were you, I would stay until the end, personal recommendation, because there will be quite a few updates that I believe are quite significant regarding what the community has been asking for a long time. As you know, at BME, we are not only characterized by being very transparent and secure, but also by listening extremely actively, whether through Telegram with the great help of Giovanni and the passengers and other users, as well as from the feedback channel we have. We are always very attentive to what you say, so we hope that these updates align a bit with the objectives you had and what you would be interested in. So let's get started if you want. Very well, perfect. So let's start a bit with the numbers of BM from the last year, doing a bit of a recap. Let's also remember a bit about the cycle we are in now regarding the market level, which, whether we like it or not, has an impact. The topic of bull markets and bear markets always has an impact, and this last year has not been one of the best. Yet we have increased the number of token holders by 27%. And as you can see, it's that blue line in a super scaled manner. That is to say, there has been no type of drop or any type of extreme rise. It has been something scaled. Why? Because new users are entering the platform. These users see the utility that BM has more and more quickly. More than 30% of BME users now hold some amount of tokens, but that percentage has only increased due to things like the level 1 of the Space Center, where with $20 you can already access those benefits. All of this is attracting many new users to become BM holders, and not only that, but also those who are already holders are increasing their balance in BM SOS EOS to benefit from higher levels as well. I don't know if you share these reflections.
Yes, no, the graph is clear. You have it there for a year. What Neil mentions, you have the blue line, which represents the numbers on the left. As of November 1st last year, there were 57,792 holders, and now there are 73,680, a 30% increase. in users who are holders, and then the red line shows the price that has broken the previous maximum that was marked by that drop after the launch, which coincided with the bear market. Now we are in a price discovery phase, in a market discovery phase.
Yes, here I would like you to remember that small spike that happened at the beginning of January, where many coins, Bitcoin being the first, had that hint of a bull market, a bit of that rise, that spike, and as you can see, it did not affect the token holders. That is to say, there was no spike in token holders. In the next slide, we will see how the increase in price over the last few months has been in a scaled and organic manner rather than any spike. And here we are seeing the evolution of the average balance of BM, as when there was that price spike at the beginning of January, at the beginning of the year, there was also a spike in the average balance. Why? Because users who were already token holders increased their holdings of BM quite substantially, which created those holding whales. As you always know, what we always want is for more people to use BM. The opposite is not desirable, as we do not want large accumulations, but rather that everyone can use it and have access to it. Therefore, that increase in price in a very scaled and organic manner, along with the increase in token holders, and this also super scaled drop in the average balance of BM, is something I believe is very favorable for the health of the token in terms of distribution and utility for all our users.
Totally agree.
This is something we always comment on when there is a rise. As in the last few months, there was a significant, very rapid increase that coincided with the market rise that Neil mentioned. This is normal. Then there is a distribution, but that distribution is happening naturally, and there is a reallocation. We see that the behavior is natural, not extremely volatile upwards and then downwards. So that is positive. That means there is a base and that there are users who, beyond a certain moment when the price rises significantly, hold on to those BMs.
Correct. It relates to utility. I believe that with each passing month, new improvements have been made within the platform. The platform has improved in terms of user experience, graphical interface, and functionalities in general. As you mentioned, Neil, at the moment a user enters, if they are going to operate even when they are going to make a minimal operation, the utility of the Space Center and the token is even more ingrained. They see the sense in it. And that number of users that BitMe is increasingly attracting means that a percentage, naturally, as you mentioned before, more than 30% ends up seeing the utility, which is the reason this token was created. This kind of membership card for BitMe gives you access to exclusive advantages and functionalities, and more people are perceiving this kind of value. Moreover, as we now expand with Mika into new countries, with this license, we can now proactively advertise in different countries, in Europe and even towards Latin America. As we expand there, the potential number of users who find utility in this will be even greater.
100. Here's a small nuance. I see that there are people. In the previous slide, we discussed the topic of token holders. That number is mainly within the BME platform. Remember that there are also token holders outside the platform, but those we track more precisely, obviously because they are within the platform, are these, and those to whom we attribute more value in terms of utilities are these, because they are the ones who can enjoy those utilities on the platform. It was just to mention this small point that does not match what you can see on the website, but that's why when it is broken down, this is the part of BME.
Great, Neil. Thank you, because just as you mentioned, it was one of the questions they were asking. In fact, in the Telegram channel, if you notice, they are always checking how many token holders there are. And it's really exciting to see how it has increased, precisely as you are mentioning here.
Yes, now that you mentioned the Telegram thing, a small comment, and I don't want to take too much time on this, but I am quite active in reading your messages because I find everything you say super interesting. I would like to take a small moment to thank all the help I see you giving to the new members who join, because I see that there are many in the last few weeks who come in saying, wow, I don't know what this is. I don't know what Earth is. I don't know what the card is. And that not only conveys very valuable information to us, perhaps in terms of improving user experience or explanations, but I see that as soon as someone asks, there are 20 responses providing 1,000 pieces of information, 4 links to the Academy, which is amazing with all the information available, all the knowledge, and I just want to thank that as well. In the end, the latest numbers from BM for this last year, I think it's quite interesting that 100% is already in circulation. We were also seeing a bit of that in Telegram about how much is left in vestings. in October it ends, well, indeed it is already at 100%. There is nothing left in terms of being blocked by vestings, and so on. Now, a bit about the approximate distribution. It's not detailed, but it is somewhat like this. 30% reserve since the ICO, which, as you know, has been there since that initial distribution, then the burn we did a few weeks ago, and then the part of everything that is in the market and what is blocked. We will discuss later how the blocking has gone, but it has been amazing. The reception of the token holders has been very good. Those APIs have been very well received, and also the issue of points that many people have been able to raise to high levels through the blocking of their B2M.
Here's an important point. Well, you said a few weeks ago about the burn. It was a few months ago. I understand it was a slip because but regarding the 30% of the reserve, I wanted to make a comment because there are people who wonder what happens with that reserve. In the end, at the time of the ICO, there was a certain amount of tokens that the company made available to anyone who wanted to buy in the ICO, and then another part that the company itself kept. We use those tokens for different purposes. In fact, the white paper specifies the concepts in which they are distributed. However, most of them have been allocated to us, and they are also in addresses that can be seen on the blockchain. So it could be somewhat understood as being blocked.
It's not that they are technically blocked, but they are not being touched. There is no need to do anything with them either. The good thing is that we use them for the users, meaning this is where, for example, the farming pool comes from. The farming pool we have for Earn comes from here, and that ultimately ends up in the hands of the users who are token holders. So as you said, it's a kind of blocking, a soft block maybe, that is there blocked, but not technically, and that when used has mainly been through utilities and giving to those token holders.
So it's important to understand that 42% is in the market, and in the market, everything that is not blocked is considered, which could perfectly be in the wallet. So it is understood as market, but it is in the user's wallet. It's not that it's in market orders, but everything that is not blocked, everything that is not the company's reserve, everything that is not burned, that other 42% is somewhat what is available to users or in orders, this kind of thing.
For those of you who arrived a little later to BME and do not know or understand what 100% circulation means, and that there are no vesting periods left, vesting is ultimately SOS EOS, a time frame that was set at the token launch that kept those tokens for a period of time, a schedule from being sold or issued in total. So now all 5 billion units are in circulation, and that is good. Why? Because there is no part of the token holders who at a certain moment bought it for a reason, for a price, and wanted to sell it for another price. Rather, that will no longer affect. No more tokens will be released from people who could buy it at one price to sell it at another, and that is positive. That is positive because there will no longer be, let's say, dumps from people who might have that intention at that moment.
Indeed. Let's move on to the next point, which we already started with the topic of utilities. To review a bit this last year in terms of utilities, not only regarding the rewards we have given to users, but also to go over how those utilities work. Because sometimes it happens to me, especially in a small committee when you discuss a bit with colleagues and friends and acquaintances, and they are not aware of some utilities. As we mentioned earlier with Javier about the latest updates that saw a bit of that potential of the card, the same happens with many people. So we are going to not only review the rewards we have given, but also how 2009 works to see that potential in each of the products and how they are impacted by BM. Starting with the BM Holder Week, the BMW Holder Week continues to have tremendous success. Since it launched, the last 3 we have done were in August, September, and October, in which we started with the vacation theme, distributing over $1,000 among 2 winners in BM, which paid for some really cool vacations, to be honest. Then, in September, we did some extra entries in the Topuria raffle that were valued at over $500, because if you did a bit of the calculation of what you had to trade to get those 10 entries, it amounted to that. So it also has a lot of value. Let's remember that all of this is without doing anything. These are users, token holders with more than 10,000 BM over the last 6 months, or with more than 50,000 BM over the last 12 months, without doing anything other than that, just holding those minimum amounts. They have already participated in these 2 things. And finally, in the Mu airdrop, which you also liked a lot, we distributed 2 million Mu to all the holders who met those conditions, based on the proportion of BM they had. That was also a success, and we are already working to try to do more of this kind.
Yes, more airdrops have to come because they have been very well received and under similar conditions.
Perfect. Well, if Leif says it, it will happen. So let's continue a bit with the utilities of 2009. The main ones, a bit in terms of generated rewards. Those benefits this last year are quite shocking. In Wallet, we have distributed over $500,000 in commission discounts in operations. In BitMecard, there have been over $200,000 distributed in cashback, which we remember is cashback distributed in BM bought from the market, which does not come from the reserve. It is not injected, but rather bought from the market. We will also see a bit of that difference later because there are still doubts about what comes from the reserve or what comes from the treasury of BM and BME and what comes from the market and is bought, generating that buying pressure, which we will also emphasize in the following slides. And also to highlight a bit in Earn. In Earn, we have that distribution of over 200 million BM from the farming pool that we mentioned earlier and over 50 million BM in rewards from other currencies because we will see it now. But remember that you can cash out or receive those rewards in BM. And finally, participation in the launchpad, the last two launchpads, remember that your participation mainly depends on the amount of BM you hold. The more BM you have, the greater the chances of being able to access this launch. So it's always good to have more BM.
Here I wanted to make a special mention of the card as we constantly find people who are still not taking full advantage of the potential the card can offer because if you really think about it, the BME card today, I don't know if everyone knows that you can get up to 39% cashback in BM token that it provides. This means that when you make your transaction, there are certain brands with which we have an agreement and they give you a variable reward, a variable percentage of cashback. That cashback can reach up to 32%. But what happens? That in addition to all transactions, depending on your Space Center level, you can earn up to another 7%. This is regardless of whether it is a store with which we have an agreement or not. You go to Mercadona, for example, and you can get up to 7% cashback in the Space Center. When you combine those stores, SOS EOS with which we have agreements, plus this extra, you reach 39%. But of course, you might ask, how do you pay for this? Well, maybe you pay with stablecoins that you have, which was a feature we launched to connect the stablecoins or cryptocurrencies you have with the card. And stablecoins are included among those cryptocurrencies you can connect. And the stablecoin can give you up to 6.5% interest as well. A stablecoin in euros, for example, so you don't have dollars due to exchange rate risk. So you have on one hand that 39%, and on the other hand, this percentage that you are generating through staking, so to speak, by accumulating euros in stablecoin. Additionally, we will now launch a new product that until now has been offered as a service, which could be the loan, because you might ask, where do you get those stablecoins from? And maybe you preferred, if you had 1 Bitcoin, to take a collateralized loan to receive half the value in Bitcoin and have this, which is true, that on one hand, you will have to pay the interest on the loan. But if Bitcoin appreciates, you don't sell your Bitcoin. You don't pay taxes on the sale because you haven't generated a swap, and that impacts your income tax IRPF level, and you can keep it in stablecoin generating interest while you spend it with the card without declaring a capital gain because you haven't had one. So if you start to combine it, and this is the magic of BitMe, when you see it as an ecosystem of solutions that begin to connect things, you can take financial advantage of the platform at levels never seen before.
I have done the math. I don't know if you have too, and many of the people watching us, of course, because from the survey Giovanni did before, do you currently have BM? 98% said yes. So, but I have done the math, and in a year we would be talking about almost an additional salary. And I'm not talking about the agreements you mentioned, the law of specific establishments, but if you calculate earn you sand with a stable coin, not risking with the volatility in euros or dollars, and then using the card, we are talking about a salary a year. It's outrageous. And keep in mind, to take advantage of the greatest benefits, it goes with the Space Center system. For the Space Center system, you had to have some BM tokens that can appreciate or not. But at a minimum, if you lock them for 12 months, they are also giving you interest.
Is there anything else to add, right?
Regarding the mathematical formula, on my part to close, this part, precisely the most interesting thing about all this that many were unaware of is what everyone was commenting on. All those BMs that are being distributed both in ER and in KR come from the market, not from the reserve, which is something that many times people were unaware of, and they were even a bit embarrassed. Am I receiving BMs from the reserve?
No. That's why I want to clarify that topic. So we repeat it a lot. And I think we have to keep repeating it. And as Neil said, thank you very much to everyone who is on social media repeating this kind of thing, because it's true. And it's understandable that not everyone has many hours a week to dedicate to understanding BB. And sometimes you have 5 minutes. So between understanding half a message or misinterpreting something and imagining something else, it's very easy for that person's personal imagination to generate a perception or understanding that is not 100% accurate. So it's very good to repeat this kind of thing, because indeed, although for us it feels almost like how annoying we are, right? Always repeating the same thing. There are more and more users out there and more people joining every day. Just imagine the number of registrations we have on the platform with the market rise. But those people neither know it, nor may they be able to dedicate enough time. So it is very important for us to repeat it, as well as the help that passengers and regular users provide who simply want to help people.
And nothing. With this importance that we have just conveyed, and I think it has become quite clear about the levels of the Space Center, what better than now to make it easier to level up with the new BM lock missions, which ultimately makes it 50% easier to level up with the same amount of BM? That is to say, here we see some approximate numbers. Obviously, this does not take into account other missions, meaning that if you are already doing other missions like trading, requesting the card, or daily access, all of that makes leveling up much easier. But as we always say, BM is the main pillar of the system, and that means that with just the purchase of BM, and in this case the lock, you can reach level 7 automatically without any waiting time or anything else.
And as we mentioned before, the higher the level, the greater the cashback, higher API, and greater commission discounts. These are all benefits. Therefore, I recommend more benefits that will come, because we are still, today, another mission has been released. The Space Center is constantly improving, and we are still enhancing the platform with new services that will come, of course. And the token will be at the epicenter. In the end, the Space Center consists of levels, and the token is like a way to boost, to give a push to leveling up more easily. There are other types of tasks that also help you earn those points, which help you level up in missions, but the token is undoubtedly the main dish, the star element.
And here is a reflection we always make. But as Leif said before, we may be repetitive for ourselves, but it might be good for new people to emphasize a bit. Socios. It will always be this way. BM will always be the main driver of the loyalty system and the reward system. I say this because sometimes it is perceived that other missions give fewer points, and that is true. Of course, they give fewer points than BM because it will always be that driver. And it is what we owe to our holders and what we want BM to be in terms of utility. Therefore, we will always maintain that focus. And now we are going to go into a bit of detail on how the impact of BM works in the different products. To make that reminder that Leif mentioned, and also to make a bit of that reminder that Giovanni said about where those BMs come from, or where all of that comes from in the different products. We will try to be quite agile, but in the end, we will detail it little by little. And you know that this is recorded, you can watch it again. And there you can see the schemes quite easily in the case of earning any currency that is not BM. We have used the example of GRT, but it could be any. And we take the example of, for instance, $500 in this GRT, which you deposit in earn. And since you have a level 6 in this case, you have a 13% API for this currency. But on top of that, you have decided to receive these rewards in BM, which you remember is an option we allow all users, which in this case gives you an additional 4%, and the rewards are given to you daily. Remember that this additional BM ranges from 0 to 4% depending on the currency. It has a 1, 2, 3, 4 in this case. So we are saying that the user will receive a 13% annual API, which will be received in GRT, but BM will be exchanged in the market for BM, so that 13% API generated comes from the market in BM, not from the company's reserve, but from the market, and then they exchange it for euros, and those euros buy BM, which are the ones delivered to them, so it is a market purchase, 1,000, the same. And then that additional 4% does indeed come from the company as an extra utility, as an extra plus. But as we always see, it is a proportion within the base API. That is to say, we are buying 13% in the market and giving 4. It is a quite large proportion, meaning that it is not the other way around, but that 4% does come, but under the premise of the market purchase of 13%, which would generate an very approximate $100 in BM by the end of the year, obviously considering total price stability of both currencies. It is a somewhat very theoretical example, but it is seen very well this way.
We repeat, this 4% is not a 4% that is generated from new issuance. This must be very clear. It is a 4% that comes from that block of reserves that the company has to create all these types of incentives, dynamics, and so on. They are not generated. There are 5 billion minus the 50 million that were burned, which is 4.95 billion. That is the issuance that exists, and no new token is being generated at any time.
This is transparent. Blockchain technology allows you to see it. Anyone with a minimum of knowledge can do it. Surely most of you are at this point where you already know how to do that. You can go to 2009, Etherscan. You can see the token and see the issuance of tokens to reflect what is also shown in this diagram. Neil is at the top. If you stay in the original currency, in this case GRT, but it could be another, Cosmos, Cardano, Ethereum, whichever you would have, if you choose to receive BM at the end of the year, and the price were stable for both currencies, $100 more in total in the final computation, if you chose to activate the BM tab?
Correct. It's a bit of the final conclusion. Yes. Continuing with the same pattern a bit within Earn, but now talking about BM. And here we won't emphasize much because we already sent you an email with this information. And as I said, you can pause the image when you see it on YouTube, and when it is recorded, you can watch it. In the next slide, we will see the impact of BM. Within Earn, by staking the BM itself, the farming pools. We have made a very basic example with 3 lines in which a user has 60,000 BM and decides either to put them all in flexible for 12 months or to put them all in the 12-month lock for 12 months, of course, or to distribute them equally 20, 20, 20 in the pools of 3, 6, and 12 months. Obviously, the 3-month one is put 4 times. That is, it ends in 3 months. I go back, the 2-month one twice, and the 12-month one once. And here we see a bit, after a year, how the rewards stack up with the different APIs, which, as you already know, the longer the lock time and the higher the Space Center level, the more API you receive. And we would see how the combination of locks has generated almost 100% more rewards than the flexible lock, that is the flexible staking, and the unique 12-month lock has generated almost 150% more rewards than the flexible part. So it's not just the Space Center points we mentioned earlier that help you level up, but also the rewards you receive in BM if you plan to leave it there for its utility. That is to say, you leave it there, and to keep it in the wallet, you leave it locked for a while, and it provides you with those rewards apart from the points it already gives you. So it's a win-win situation all around.
The other day, someone was still asking me, again, as I said before, it's normal. I mean, there are people who aren't studying BitMe all day, but they said to me, hey, of course, I'm enjoying the benefits in BitMe, but if I put them in R and lock them, I'm going to stop enjoying those benefits. And no. When you put it in R, it still counts for you to be at the corresponding Space Center level in the same way. So you can have it locked for 12 months if you want and still enjoy all the benefits, just like you were doing with the coins in the wallet.
That's super important, Leif, what you're saying, and I think it needs to be clarified because we conducted a survey that Giovanni put out, which is, do you use staking plus CAR to get cash back from BM? And 41% say no, and it might be due to a misunderstanding on our part in explaining that if you have BM in a service, whether it's staking or if you want to use it for cashback with CAR, it will generate the benefit exactly the same, meaning it won't deduct points for the Space Center or anything. All BM have direct interaction and direct benefits with all services and complement each other, including this case we are discussing. So as you mentioned before, you have 98% BM. Know that if you have it staked in any of the formats that Neil explained at this moment, whether flexible or fixed, if you connect it with the card and make payments, that cashback will also reach you while you are generating that annual API, that bonus, that constant reward. And this is important because here we have the entire audience who are people that have 98% BM. However, 41% are not using both services at the same time.
In fact, yes, it's a small nuance that not only, as you rightly say, does not negatively impact moving them from the wallet to any locking pool, but it positively affects for 3 main reasons. That is, the flow we mentioned. I take the stable coin, buy it, put it in Earn, that generates rewards for me, and then I link it to the car for cashback. Unintentionally, you are fulfilling the mission of operating in BitMe, which means you are also accumulating points for that mission, accumulating points in the mission to generate rewards in Earn, and fulfilling the mission to generate cashback with the card. That is to say, you are fulfilling missions that will also help you position yourself at a better level, which means having better APIs and better cashbacks. That is to say, it is a wheel, a virtuous circle that keeps rolling and increasing, and it becomes easier each time you see it as more powerful and more useful. So, it's amazing.
That's right. In fact, I specifically wanted to emphasize that one way to secure, in quotes, our level is precisely with the BM mission and by locking those BMs. That is to say, it is a way that many users use as a strategy to say, I want to reach this level that is of interest to me, whether it's 5 or 6. So it's a way to secure those points, because we must remember that those points from the BM mission do not expire. That's also a detail to keep in mind.
Exactly. Let's continue then with the impact on the card, which here I apologize for, but now a small error that we will discuss shortly. But basically, it's just a bit of a repeat. That's why I want to briefly go over what Leif said earlier. If I have $100, which I have decided to keep in RT because I believe it's better to work with stablecoins, but there are people who link it, for example, to their Bitcoin wallet or any currency to do a DCA for selling. They do it through the cashback from the card, which is also fine. But in this case, we said we do it with Ortiz's tenors. And since we are again at level 6, we have that 5% cashback on any purchase. As Leif said, it doesn't have to be a partner. It can be Mercadona or whatever, but in this case, we are going to a partner, in this case, DOT, which gives us an additional 24% cashback, generating a total of 29% cashback. Remember that cashback is obtained from the market, not from the company's reserve, but that 24% is purchased from the market, which would generate around $27 of BM for that purchase. We made in 2 of $100. Don't pay attention to the message below. It's an error, but those $27 are generated. And as we said, you have fulfilled the Opera mission by purchasing the Urtai. You have fulfilled the mission of the generated cashback. And if you have that Orti in Earn generating rewards, you are also fulfilling those missions.
Therefore, what Neil said, we have agreements, and what Leif said, we have agreements with companies. DOT is a scooter company. But if you go into the drop-down tab and go to cart, you will find all the stores segmented by food, lifestyle, leisure, electronics, etc.
And the initial cashback percentage from the agreement that BitMe has with that company, which adds to what Neil explained about the space center at the level you are in. And we are constantly adding. In the end, that block is BitMe Live, as we have called it, and it can be accessed both from the cart and from the application's own dashboard, as well as from the side menu. It's BitMe Live. There are a lot of both physical and online stores where you can obtain these types of advantages, but it is not a fixed catalog in the sense that these are the only ones. Not at all. We are constantly adding new 100% USAN.
Continuing then with the latest utility we have today, which we have implemented over the last few months, is the referral part. That is to say, now, as you know, all those rewards we generate from referrals are received in BM, both for your referrers and for the referrals you bring. And in this case, those BMs that are granted in the form of rewards are also obtained from the market. We also take those $10, $20, whatever is appropriate. They are purchased from the market and granted to that new referred person, brought to the platform, or to that referrer who invited that person. So we briefly summarize a bit in the next slide the 2 main flows of BM from the last year.
I would like to say one thing about the previous slide. Sorry, Neil, because I really like the message that was published, which you posted on Telegram, where from this functionality, anyone in their BitMe application can go to the details of a coin or the share button, because in the coin details at the top, there is the possibility to share that coin or to the invite and earn tab. At the moment you invite a person, suddenly from this functionality, you have a kind of superpower that allows you not only to earn money, because by inviting a person, when that person makes a transaction or several transactions of $100 or more, a cumulative total, transactions of $100 or more, they will receive money. That person $10, sometimes $20, $25, depending on the promotion that is currently running in BB for that person. But you will also receive the same, another $10, $20, $25, but both parties receive it in BM. And where do those BMs come from? We go back to the previous point, they are not issued in BM. What happens is that those BMs are purchased from the market. They don't even come from the reserve. They are purchased from the market. So this type of operation that a person might say, hey, how can I help BM, or how can I help in this community if I'm not 1,000 times a better programmer, if I can't do these kinds of things, I don't work in BB, and so on. Well, this simple action not only helps you earn from the reward you will receive for inviting a person, but you are also helping to make BM more known, along with everything that entails.
Here too, before moving on to the next point, I want to emphasize what Leif said earlier, that we continue to infuse Space Center into all products and services, and referrals are one of them, in which tomorrow you will see a new mission to invite friends and earn points, and later we will also try to link the benefits themselves. So we continue, we keep working, and it's nonstop. There are more and more missions, more benefits linked to Space Center, and this is just what we have mentioned so far, but there will be many more. And as I said before, we are going to finish with that big picture of the two types of flow of BM, so that it is very clear that neither of them issues new BM. That is very clear. There were 5 billion, now there are 4.95 billion. After the burn of 50 million, it ended. There are no more, but they can come from the reserve or from market purchases. In this case, we have referrals at the top left, the Air API part, when rewards are generated from coins different from BM, and the cashback part from cars. All of that is purchased on the market. And then we have the right side, which is that BM API from the farming pool, and that extra API we mentioned of +4, +3, +2 of the coins that come from the reserve. But what I love is that everything that comes from the reserve goes to the hands of those who are already token holders. That is, in the farming pool, it is distributed to those who are blocking BM or holding BM. So I already have BM, and as a holder, I receive more BM, which I find very nice. That BM gives that BM to those who already have B, not just because, but because you already have it. Just like the extra API does not exist without a base API, meaning that this extra API of 4% does not exist without that initial 16 that is purchased on the market. So that also compensates a lot at the own level of market distribution. So these are the two big pictures. And what I said before, Leif, we want to grow the community. We want to grow BitMe and BM very easy. We invite friends. We use the card. We receive rewards from Earn and BM. And that is it. Those are actions that directly impact BM. So we close a bit here. If you have any final thoughts on your part, we can move on to the next topic.
It's quite clear.
The only thing I would add is that I am seeing several questions that are not related to these segments, so I want to remind you that we will leave them for the end, except for those that are directly related to this to provide clarification answers. Okay, so please be a little patient. We are noting them down. That said, if for some reason we cannot answer this, we will do so in one of the monthly live sessions we have with Javier. Okay, so thank you.
Perfect. So now we are going to the part about blockages. As we have completed 5 months since the blockages were launched, we will summarize the 4 main numbers from these 5 months. And then we also have the different slides on how the blockage works. But the truth is that, as we explained in great depth during a live session 5 months ago, we will leave that aside. There you have the slides in case you want to see them, but we are not going to delve too much into that because there are many updates and things we want to explain, and we are running out of time. So the main focus is on these numbers. More than 1.3 billion BM in blockage polls right now, a resounding success in terms of participation from token holders. So thank you very much for that. More than 50%, 55% of BM that are blocked are in 12-month pools. When I saw that, or I have been seeing it in recent months, because I'm not going to lie to you, I check it every day. What it shows me is a lot of confidence from the BM holders, meaning I am here for the utility. I am here because I want to be here in the long term. So I am perfectly comfortable blocking for 12 months, which is also fantastic. And also in terms of discounts. Let's remember that there are conditions for the use of blockages that if you want to unlock before time, before that determined date, both the rewards generated at the API level and 10% of the initial funds are deducted. Here we have already accumulated more than 1.5 million BM of initial funds, 10% of initial funds, and more than 300,000 BM in rewards. The rewards part, as you know, because we discussed it at the time, goes back to the farming pool, meaning it is redistributed among those users who still have their funds blocked, and the deducted part is from 10. Later in this presentation, we are going to discuss what we propose to do with that, but we are going to ask you, okay, we are going to ask you, because you know when we launched the blockages, we said that we did not want to benefit from that discount, that we wanted it to be something you wanted to do. One of the ideas you gave us was the one we have considered to be the best, but we will see it later, and we will also ask you what you think. So then, we define a bit. We will review in the following slides how it works. Here, just a brief note to remember that it is 50% easier to level up with your own BMs just by blocking them. You can earn up to 5,000 new points for blocking BMs, which is amazing. But we have mentioned it, so let's move on. And as I said, we will go through this quite quickly, which is how the BM blocking works. Remember that there are different pools in which if you add funds, the more funds are added, the lower the API is, okay? So the more funds are blocked, which is good for some people because it means there are fewer BMs in circulation, and the fewer BMs there are in those blocking pools, the higher the API is, which is also good in the sense that you receive more rewards, okay?
It's a bit of the reflection we make. And just so you have the data, Neil, Giovanni conducted a survey asking if you have BMs in the blocking pulse, and 88% said yes, okay?
Brutal.
Well, it corresponds to what we are basically seeing in the line.
Of course, I am going to tell you how it works. You're welcome. Let's move forward because you are already experts here in locking. Basically, let's remember a bit the flow from when I am in the wallet section or from the end section. I can add BM in any of the pools and I can distribute it as I want. There is no minimum. We can put 1 BM if we want. Whatever we want to put in each one and with different times and so on. And remember that for now, you cannot add from the flexible pool to the locking pool. We first have to transfer those funds to the wallet and from the wallet to the locking pool, okay? We have had some doubts about that. Nothing. Remember this. We move forward, and to finish with the topic of lockings, just to mention a bit about the next steps we are considering executing based on your feedback from the last 5 months, which is first of all what I just mentioned, the ability to move funds from the flexible pool to the locking pool, because we have seen that there was a need there, that people were a bit unsure about how to make that flow from flexible to wallet and from wallet to locking. So we will see if we can work on it. And then 2 points that we also see as a pain point that we should try to address, which is being able to see in euros the amount we have locked in the flexible pool for 3 months, for 12 months, and improving the ability for me to add funds to a pool that is already active without having to update those locking times. As you can see, these are direct screenshots from the feedback channel, which we already mentioned in the last live session, that we are very attentive to that channel. So if I were you, I would create an account, see if there is anything I like to vote for, and if not, I would propose whatever you want, okay? These are things we have seen that carry a lot of weight in the community.
Indeed.
Let's continue then, and here, Leif will be the one who knows more about this, a bit about the impact of the partners, as sometimes we also have doubts about BME to BM, a bit about how those partners impact BM.
Yes, here basically, the team asked me to look at social media where some people were asking, hey, what you are doing is not directly related to BitMe's product, but what is BitMe doing with, let's say, the case of Telefonica? You know that Telefonica has launched a cryptocurrency wallet in which the infrastructure they are using underneath and all the management of the cryptocurrencies and the buying and selling of those cryptocurrencies is done with B2M. Besides them, there are other large institutions that are making these integrations and that will be made public because in the end, they want to have the best by their side from the perspective of a company that is regulated outside of tax havens, with a team that has been able and is capable of building end-to-end solutions themselves, in this case us, who have a very deep knowledge of the technology and have a product with many clients tested for about 10 years. So what are we going to do? So of course there are users who say, well, what do you do with them? What about us? It is true that initially this type of integration is not something that they will necessarily integrate into the BM token, because the BM token is a cryptocurrency that has been created to provide advantages and utilities within the B product. However, it is true that all these types of partnerships and agreements, at the very least, generate a direct impact, an indirect impact at the marketing level, because in all communications, many of you will have seen the Telefonica case, for example, because it has appeared in all media on a national and even international scale in many outlets. So what that does is give visibility to BME, which eventually means that those types of users will also be listening to us from other places and will end up registering. If you remember, Neil said earlier that about 30% of all the people who come in end up obtaining BM because they see a real utility within the BME product ecosystem. Therefore, there is a much higher probability that many more users, in fact, as a result of all the actions we are taking in different contexts, the brand is becoming much more well-known and the number of users is growing more and more. So this type of user, at the very least, normalizes the BitMe brand and ends up using the BitMe brand as well. Now, that doesn't mean that some of these companies won't also decide to list the BM token. Some will do it. However, it is neither a guarantee nor a requirement that we impose on them, because ultimately our goal as a company, the mission we have, is to bring cryptocurrencies to all the people on this planet, to democratize access and simplify it from the perspective that if you knew how I had to use Bitcoin 10 years ago, when the technology was very cumbersome, where you had to use things through commands, through terminals, that kind of thing, we aim to simplify all this and make it accessible to more and more people. One of the ways more people can access this technology is also through banks, through large companies like Telefonica, which has over 300 million users and is now testing this new application in a very limited circle in order to open it up to the rest of the users they have. That is to say, that is the objective we have, and it is there. Now, the BM token within our product will always have a very special functionality. And the idea is that eventually some of these agreements we make with the outside, in fact, next year, we want to focus quite a bit on this kind of thing, on how being a token holder not only gives you advantages within BitMe, but can also provide you with advantages outside of BitMe. You have already seen a bit of a preview of how the card gives you more cashback if you do things outside of BitMe and so on. But we want to enhance this much more with special agreements and so on. And the idea is to create a structure, a series of professional relationships, in this case of integrations and so on, so that not only with them, but also from them, we can jump to other types of partners that again provide more visibility, generating this whole cycle. So the idea when managing a company like this is that you have to be thinking in 360 degrees in many elements, and you can't do everything in just one way, one single strategy. So you have to manage many fronts in parallel at different speeds that will be executed at different times in the future, but everything should be aligned in the same direction. And that is a bit what we are doing at BB, and the reason for this slide to explain in that sense. Yusen, you read here, yes, if you agree with what we discussed about the BME group expanding, maybe it would be the right time for you to comment on what is happening with STX. STX is another example for you to get a very bird's eye view. You can understand that BitMe is no longer just a company, because BitMe started as a company, but eventually has become a business group of different companies, and think of it in 3 verticals. One of the verticals involves things that have nothing to do with regulation as such. They relate to, for example, education, what we do with BME Academy, web, MBA, or the type of consulting we do with Deca Labs, with the BB consulting part on how we bring blockchain technology and all our knowledge to enable other types of companies to leverage that to continue creating products around this. Again, some of these products may use BME or may connect with the token in some way or may not, but that is one of the verticals. Another vertical is what is now going to regulate everything related to MiCA, which is this regulation coming at the European level concerning cryptocurrencies as we know them, Bitcoin, BM, USDT, this type of cryptocurrency. All that vertical coming from the MiCA regulation is the wallet and so on. But the idea, what we saw here, is that we could also leverage all this technology in the same way we did for third parties in consulting. We said, hey, how can we redefine the inner workings of how a stock exchange and traditional markets function, such as the Spanish BME or NASDAQ, if we know how to create that type of product, how Could we use blockchain technology to provide much more transparency, reduce costs, times, and make it much more efficient? That was the challenge we set for ourselves a year and a half ago, and it is the reason for the emergence of this new vertical, which is to use the blockchain technology we had been using for traditional crypto assets that we understand, Bitcoin and all that, to bring it to the assets of the traditional financial world, but by digitizing them. In addition to digitizing and tokenizing that type of asset, we aim to have an exchange and market that operates with blockchain technology and understands that type of asset to be able to trade and custody them. Well, apart from trading them, the primary market, which would be something like ICOs, which in this market is called Esto, the buying and selling part, which is a trading platform, and the custody part. So this type of thing is for the market, for traditional financial assets of the traditional off-chain world, so to speak, which we convert to on-chain. That is BME STX, and that is one vertical. Just imagine the amount of traditional financial assets that exist in the world. Of digitization, it is also a very powerful vertical, but it is another type of product. Now, that is a separate product with a company that is also a public limited company that has a financial license and is regulated by the Bank of Spain. We are in the middle of a sandbox process, which is followed by the pilot regime, which is another process, and we end up at ESMA, meaning a different series of paths. Could it eventually have advantages? In fact, we are already evaluating how to be a token holder, the level of the Space Center of BitMe also within this product, which is indeed part of the group. Within the STX product, it could offer advantages. But for now, what has happened? Well, the company has been given a lot of visibility to another type of audience, an audience that perhaps did not trust. I always say that you must be in a cave if in 15 years you haven't had time to understand something like Bitcoin. But there are people who are like that, or who do not want to understand it and who trust more in the traditional world, but do believe in blockchain technology. This part here always grates on me a bit. But well, they believe in blockchain technology. It is true that blockchain technology brings many advantages if you know how to use it. We won't open that can of worms, otherwise we won't get into Bitcoin maximalists. But in that regard, we are using it very well. So what happens? It may happen. In this case, that token holders can have advantages within STX, but also that now BitMe, BM, and everything that is the BitMe group has just been given visibility to very traditional players, whether they are players, users, or large traditional institutions and companies. As you know, large financial institutions are now part of it. They are shareholders of BME. Among them are banks, including the Bank of Banks at the Spanish level, which is Bank. Almost no one knows this bank, but it is the Bank of Banks. It is a very powerful thing. This is the strategy we are implementing. And as you can see, it is not only a 360 strategy at the product suite level, but also a 360 strategy across the different fronts we address, including the different applications of blockchain technology to other more traditional, more off-chain assets.
Let's go.
As a conclusion, although you explained it perfectly, just to summarize, all those companies, all those corporations, all those businesses that are being developed will, sooner or later, become part of BitMe's infrastructure. Therefore, BM will be a tool that will be present in that environment. I'm biting my nails, Leif, Giovanni, Neil, because I know something very interesting is coming up. I don't want to spoil anything, but I'm also looking forward to hearing that part that I loved when you mentioned it yesterday.
Yes, we have a little break to digest everything that Leif has increased, which is super impactful for me. And I think the value of the partners for BM is crystal clear. There is no doubt about it. We take a little break before the news that will come in the following months for BM, recalling a bit about the t-shirts, which I have wanted for a long time, well, for years. I have read in Telegram since the ICO that I wanted a t-shirt. Well, here you have the t-shirt that was closed yesterday, and yesterday we collected the $5 shipping fee from the users. As we have seen, some who were signed up did not have the 5, or I signed up but made a mistake with the email, or there were some small problems we encountered. As you may have already known, we have extended the next 3 or 4 days until Friday. That is, everything must be done by Thursday, because on Friday morning, we will execute that withdrawal of the $5 again. There will be no more opportunities here. We have already opened 3 more days than necessary because it will be withdrawn. For those who have withdrawn, no worries. But for those who haven't, it was something you all requested a lot. So we want to give that second chance. Be careful, it doesn't mean that those who didn't sign up now can sign up again. We are not talking about people who signed up and believe they did everything. That is, who met the conditions, who are residents in Spain, who put the 5 in the wallet and so on, and did not execute that withdrawal. They have another opportunity, which we will look into in much more detail to see what might be happening. Okay. People who have not participated should not think that they can participate now and that it will work. It will not work.
Just a small nuance for you to know. And now, yes, this t-shirt also has an extra. It is similar to the typical one we have, and so on. But it is only for, it is like the special edition of the BM holder of the token. So it has a special nuance in that sense.
Come on. It's an exclusive edition. So let's go, everyone. Yes, sir. Today we all go. Teams. Well, let's get started. News. 4 updates. Let's go. Come on. All requested by the community. I hope and wish. The first, accumulated benefits. The ability to have a place where I can see all the benefits I have generated. Okay? Through Space Center. As you can see, we are on the Space Center screen. Below the level. There I see all the accumulated rewards I have generated. And when I press 1000, a drop-down opens with all the products, what I have generated in detail, the total summed up, and also an approximate, which is an estimate of what I could have generated if I had reached the next level. That is to say, if I am level 3, in this case, I could have generated almost 172s. Well, at level 4, if I had been level 4, I could have generated almost 235, which is 36% more. That is very powerful because users that I also see have doubts on Telegram and so on. And you tell us, wow, I don't know if leveling up is worth it or not. I don't know if it's good. Well, look, here you can see it. You are level 2. You have this much. If you had been level 3, you would have had X. So you can draw your own conclusions as well and see a bit of that added value we have. And we also provide a point that we didn't have until now, which is everything we are currently offering from the discounts in the wallet and from Pro, which right now cannot be visualized anywhere. So here you will be able to see everything unified. And I think it can be of great interest for those of us who frequently use this functionality.
I find it very interesting because in the end, it is the way to put in front of your face the value that being a token holder gives you at an economic level. I mean, it will give you many things. You even participate in raffles or sometimes events that only certain levels of token holders can access this kind of thing, but also the economic part of saying, hey, boom, this is everything I have received, which right now is a bit scattered among the different products. It is also true that in the wallet and Pro section, it doesn't appear, and here it would appear, which is also super visible because otherwise you have to go almost operation by operation to see the cashback it gave you. So seeing all of this in one place and being able to see it in one go is really great, really.
To serve you. We inform you that we will start with a bit of an MVP, a first test, that will only include the earn section and the car section, which is a bit, as Leif said before, scattered, so we will bring it together in one place. And later we will add the discount section in Pro and Brokers, and when you see it, if you notice that you don't see those numbers, it's not because you have it wrong, but because we are starting a bit slowly to ensure that everything works correctly with those points, okay? And later on we will add the following ones. So the next novelty that we are going full throttle on is the social positioning system, also highly requested, people who participate in launchpads just to see what position they are in. DBM holders, well, that's it. Here we can also see Space Center. We are proposing all of this. Obviously, many of these things are not developed, so we can modify something visually if we consider it much better in terms of user experience. But for now, the proposal is a bit like that trophy, where you can click inside Space Center and it tells you what position you are in, both the people ahead of you, the people behind you, and how many points the next user is away. And this is ultimately a first step towards a new line that we would like to start working on, which is the ability to reward based on position. That is to say, imagine in a few months the possibility, which as I said is not so fixed, but it is a potential idea 2009, of saying the first 1,000 users of Space Center enter this promotion or receive X. So you can see that you are in position 1024 and wow, I want to be in those 1,000. I will check how many points I am away to try to surpass it. Firstly, it is purely informational. There will be nothing else linked, but it is information that you already communicated to us. Would be valuable for you, and later there will be some kind of linkage, utility, and promotion 2009, but it will be a super interesting phase too. And now finally, in quotes, because there are two little things but they go hand in hand, comes a bit the big topic, which is that we are starting, well, some of you here, surely many, because you said that more than 88% have BM, received a survey asking if you would be interested in using BM in exchange for benefits within the platform. Here, 70% said they were interested. In using BM, 50% have already done so on other platforms and considered it very good for obtaining those points or rewards. And when asked what exactly they wanted, as benefits, 42% said they wanted Space Center points. They didn't mention other things. They said 42% wanted Space Center points. So based on this, and obviously the internal work we do, because you know that we not only work based on executing those requests, but we also work hand in hand with regulators. We work alongside many entities so that everything we launch has that utility, which is ultimately what we want from BM. We are launching a new utility of BM1, a new mechanism linked to this use, okay?
What is, we already know. I think here, an important nuance to clarify is that until now, people might think that, well, I already have the tokens and they are already being used. I have advantages and so on. I am already giving it a use. No. Here, the difference is that before you would redeem them there. Now using them means that you utilize them and those tokens are destroyed. At the moment, you use them to obtain an advantage.
He made him move forward. Things move forward. I was creating the morbidity. Neil is inside the cake. Neil is inside. You and everything of yours jumped out at him and he said, well, now he is seeing the doubts there.
And I say, be careful because here we need to make an important nuance.
Totally. The next slide is the redemption of BM. Okay. The redemption of BM is very well explained by Leif. It is not about using it theoretically to give use to BM because that has been around for a long time with holding and so on. Now it is about using it at the action level. That is, I redeem BM like someone redeems a typical movie ticket. It is redeemed, it is torn, and I access the cinema, okay? Or any of these music tokens. And music festival tokens that I take with my beer, with my token, which is a little piece of paper. They tear it, it is redeemed, and they give me the beer. Well, this is the same. We take the BMs, we redeem them, and that redemption of BM gives us points. What is special about this? That is the third mission linked to BM, meaning that with BM it is even easier to access the next levels because you can earn points for buying it, earn points for locking it, and earn points for redeeming it. Therefore, you have 3 ways to earn them that also add up, meaning that what you buy and lock gives double points, and what you buy and redeem gives double points. Therefore, it is a win-win in this sense. They are points, be careful, that do not expire, meaning we have the points from the initial BM purchase mission that expire or when you sell, meaning those points are redeemed. We have the locking one, which means that while it is locked, the funds keep the points, and when the funds are unlocked, obviously, the points are removed, but you can get them back if you lock again. And we move on to a third type of mission, which is the redemption one, where the points never expire. The moment you earn points for redeeming BM, these points do not expire. They stay with you forever, which makes it very powerful.
This is Neely, because we see the presentation that is super clear, but basically from top to bottom. New redemption utility of BM, okay? Reduction of the total supply of BM through this utility.
What does that mean?
That the BMs you use to buy permanent points in the Space Center will no longer be available for other users to acquire. And the BMs, those 5 billion, are removed from the supply.
From the 4,950. Every time a person wants to use this mechanism, which is the simplest way to level up, every time they use the tokens, those tokens are destroyed. That is to say, from the 4950 to the question of whether there will be fewer tokens from those 4950 million each time. Indeed, yes, 2009, every time this functionality is used by a user who wants to quickly access a level of Space Center and uses that mechanism instead of the other options they have, those tokens disappear.
Indeed.
And this, as Leif said, is a first step, which means that this is the simplest and most direct utility that has existed for this exchange, this new mechanism of BM exchange. But we already have ideas for next steps that are totally theoretical. And I don't want to get ahead of myself. I'm not saying we are going to do it, but we are considering it, for example, as an option, an alternative to the daily access mission. That is to say, I forgot to log in, my points have expired, I want to complete the 15-day access mission again. I can either access for 15 days or redeem XBM, and there the mission is fulfilled again, and I can log in again to recover those points. For example, or what we mentioned earlier about the 10% of BM deducted for unlocking BM early. That 10%, as we said, we do not want to benefit. We do not want BitMe to benefit from that. We want it to be valuable for the users. One of the proposals you made to us when we talked about that 10%, those unlocking conditions was, wow, why not burn them? Why not reduce the supply through that mechanism? And we completely agree. Therefore, what we propose, and as I said, we will also ask the community what you think, is that every month, everything that has been deducted with that 10% for early unlocking is also redeemed along with the BM, so that users can proactively redeem to obtain those permanent points.
Neil, in fact, that answers some of the questions that the community has asked us. For example, Eusebi Evidel asks if you can see the implementation of streak protectors at Space Center in the area mission. Would that answer, as you mentioned before, Javier Cuervas, have you thought of something to prevent a possible mass sale of BM at the end of the 6 and 12-month locks? That would also provide an answer in some way.
That is another topic. And the answer I would give to my colleague is that we should remember that the pools are for 3, 6, and 12 months, but each person does it when they want. So what does that mean? That the 50% currently locked for 12 months does not mean that all will be released from today to 12 months, but that I locked it 5 months ago, Leif 4 months ago, Javi a week ago, but we have already told him to lock more. Giovanni is a joke. Giovanni locked it 2 months ago. Well, they will be periodically unlocked, not all at once. There won't be a day when everything that is locked for 12 months or 3 months or 6 months will be unlocked. Rather, what I mean is that they are in pools of that duration, right? That all will be affected this way. But as I said, it's another topic. I prefer to close this now and then recap what we see. Next slide, we see how it works. Super visual, super easy to understand. We have the user, the BM holder obviously, decides to redeem, the next slide when we can. The BM holder decides to redeem BM in exchange for these points or benefits. Later on, what we say is that maybe in some time we will say, come on, exclusive promotion of an airdrop that only level 4, 5, 6 or users who redeem will receive. So you can decide what you want to do, whether to level up or redeem, for example. These are ideas we are discussing. Well, the user redeems those BMs, which accumulate in a theoretical pool, let's say, within BME, along with that 10% discount, and for early unlocking of BM, once a month, we send those BMs to a dead blockchain address, which is how it's known in the industry, like those addresses that have no owner. So those BMs cannot be reintroduced into circulation. It's a bit like the typical address that is X, which is correct that as they block the blockchain, what users will be able to see is that shipment. That is to say, you will be able to perfectly see the shipment that has been made. You will be able to perfectly see that wallet, how the BMs are accumulating, and they don't come out from there. I mean, all of this, well, there is no transparency greater than on the blockchain, so they will be able to see all of this there.
This is going to be another interesting metric in upcoming programs when Neil and Leif come again to see how many tokens that address has, which you will be able to see for yourselves directly. But we will also be able to see the evolution and the services that come to mind to implement this type of utility, which I think is one of the best. I really like the others, but this one seems very top, very, very top.
And to finish, just what you said, Javier, where do we see this? How do we see what is blocked, what is redeemed? Well, there it is, like the last surprise we have for today, which is that live BM information, which will be both public, the total part, that is, how much is in total circulation, how much is blocked in total, how much is redeemed in total, we will see that publicly. But the user within their accounts will also be able to see their proportion within the total. That is, if there is a block of 1 billion BMs, you have 50 million or 1 million blocked out of that 1 billion, and that generates an X. So you will be able to see both what is in circulation, what is blocked, and what is redeemed, as I said, both at a personal level and at a macro level of BMs, so that you always have that snapshot of the situation, the distribution, and the supply of BMs. And here are the updates. I don't know. Let's see what you think.
We have also put a survey in this regard. Would you use BM to acquire permanent points in Space Center? And 79% said yes, 21% said no. So there is quite a bit of interest in being able to use this tool to achieve a constant level in Space Center. And you are also helping the community You are helping the growth of the entire platform's infrastructure.
And let's also remember an important point, that the release of this functionality does not make the others disappear. That is, that other 20-something% who would not like to use it can still do everything previously. In the end, it is just another addition to the system, another development, another improvement.
Correct, totally cumulative.
Very good, very good. Well, I don't know if there are any questions out there, Giovanni, that we may have left unanswered. If you want now, live in the chat. Oh, look, this seems very appropriate to me, and I think it came up yesterday in the conversation, and it's about when this will be available. And we have to ask you this, Leif. Willie is asking. Willie is asking us when all of this will be available, more or less. First quarter of next year, a date around there.
Well, some of the things that have been discussed here are already available recently. In fact, today, on the Tuesday of Novenas, a new mission has come out, like this one they mentioned earlier about the referrals. I don't know which specific function he is referring to, but the idea is that we are going to be working on this. So 2009, the missing functionalities in the next 3 months.
So some of these things are going to come out very quickly. And as I said, some have already even been released. But if he specifies which one will interest him, I think he is referring not so much to the interface, but to the functionality of being able to redeem BM for Space Enter points and then, well, everything related to Bitcoin. That would be the specific function. And then the interface, the display, the front of everything Neil has shown about the live data on the BM token, the different parts of Space Center, how much money you have saved using it, how much money you have earned using each of the BitMe services, etc.
Well, let's see. I think Neil is the best to answer these kinds of things. I likewise. Whatever you want, Neil. If you want, you go ahead.
No, I think in the end, the perspective is the same as soon as possible. But in the end, it is very difficult to catch two.
I can be a little more precise here. I thought you wanted to give that, but I'll say it. For example, the issue of accumulated benefits. This is something that today, an update of the application has been launched to the stores, and this new functionality should already appear, as the stores take 2 to 3 days to send the update, review it, and so on. So this kind of thing should start appearing. As soon as you mentioned the issue of accumulated benefits, the ability to use the tokens, the idea is that this should be around mid to late February. That functionality should be available. And the other was the BME Live. It will more or less coincide, just like with the redemption. By the end of February or the beginning of March, these two functionalities should be available. I don't know if you mentioned any more, but since I've thought of those 3 functionalities in my head, I believe it has been very clear and that people are super happy.
We are going to follow up on everything because the truth is that it seems to me a tool for many users who, at a certain moment, want to maintain a level of Space Center and say, hey, now I like BM, but I also want to have other currencies, and I will use part of my BM to earn those points. And in addition, I will in some way consolidate my use of the platform. So this is going to be very interesting, and we'll have a development and many ideas that will be able to be launched to us in the coming months. Well, the whole community. So nothing. We are going to set first quarter of 2025 for the end of February, March, and we will keep talking then. But well, the idea is there. It has been presented, and I believe that everyone is. If you see the chat, everyone is super happy.
Well, I can't see it right now, but I was keeping an eye on it before. In the end, it's about seeing how BME, how we as a company, as a team, as people have been behaving and doing things up to now. We have always said, hey, we were going to do this, and it was done. We were going to create a complete platform with different products. Some said, well, how are you going to do that if you need thousands of engineers for that and it's super complicated? Well, of course, it's super complicated, but we come from doing very complicated things. Each of the employees working at BME in different areas had the ability to do it and we said so, and the word and honesty to do the things we said. So if we have always been doing this, it's a bit like if we say it, it's because it gets done. Come on, let's say things here.
No. In fact, once again, encouraging them to use the BME feedback tool, which, as you can see, is something that all product managers are attentive to, and even Leif is often reviewing those types of proposals that are made. And not least important, I have also seen that in the chat, both on Telegram and here on YouTube, the passengers and moderators have been helping us. Thank you very much, because some of the questions that have arisen there have already been answered in the chat. So thank you very much to the community.
And continue. Sorry. In fact, Giovanni, we are going to ask everyone who is live to give a like to Leif, to Neil, to encourage them to come more often, because every time they come, it's good news and we are delighted. Although the BME Live we have next week will also have new news and updates on how the entire sector is doing. That will also be a moment for you to comment on the context during the program, so you know that Bitcoin, as expected, reached an all-time high during the program about 10 minutes ago.
Can you believe that I didn't even notice?
It's just that she has something already in.
We reached about 93522 and now it's around 93177. So things are looking good.
Javi has also been helped because some have mentioned it in the chat, some over there. So Javi took advantage of the moment. His moment with Bitcoin had to be.
Javier, you've held on for a long time, man.
But generally speaking, I think so. Well, and then there's the BM over there too. Generally speaking, I think it's important to understand that in the end, as a company, as a product, every time we launch the ICO, it is true, as I mentioned before, that in terms of product, in terms of technology, we had a lot to improve, to be on par with other players who were doing it very poorly. And it's not that we said it then or that we had a crystal ball, but in the end, it was about analyzing and referring to the evidence and the results that have occurred, some of which are in jail or have closed the company, things like FTX and others, or the situation with Binance and the CEO. In other words, we were much better in this regard, but at the product level, we had a lot to improve. And what has happened? Well, we have been including everything constantly, and if we look at the trend, in the end, we are just adding more in that sense, and that is also our goal as a team, to create this ecosystem of solutions and this type of infrastructure and platform so that more and more people can access this with a complete 360 solution, both individual users and companies. We have thousands and thousands of companies that are our clients, as well as institutions. You have seen some famous ones and even governments. In fact, it is known that the government of Spain operates with BME, conducts transactions with BME. So buying and selling, there are others out there that have not made it public, but it is a reality that we provide 360 services to clients. Why? Because it is a type of company that has a 360 product, but with a technological base, with a regulatory base, with a well-established team base, a support base, which has always been the mission to create a BME brand in which we could create an ecosystem of solutions, and without rush but without pause, doing things right, avoiding any type of problem as much as possible. I am talking about hacks and things like that, which we have never had any problems with due to how we have all the security of the infrastructure. And from there, little by little, we will improve without rush but without pause. And this is a bit of the company philosophy that we carry and how we will continue in the coming years.
It has gone well. It has gone well. Well, the truth is that it has been a pleasure. We have been here for 1 hour and a half. That said, I believe that every time you come, it is wonderful. We also had a great time with Giovanni, with other guests. So we encourage you to come more often, of course. And nothing. To all of you in the chat, thank you for joining us on this third anniversary of BM. We truly hope, although we see in the chat that you are super happy with the news, it is no less, I believe, that these are amazing updates and that the coming months look very promising. So I don't know if you want to say goodbye individually or if you want to comment on anything else. We will stay here as long as needed, but it's up to you.
I have already commented. I think it is clear, and someone else can comment if they want.
I just have a small final message. Again, gratitude for the last year Everyone has been very supportive. And as I said, I am very attentive to Telegram, and I see the help that is given to new holders, the help that users provide. I really appreciate it. I think it is a super strong value that we have in BME, which is the community, which is amazing. And as you see, everything is for the holders. That is to say, as I have said many times, it is not this or this. It is always this, and now more of this, and now more of this. We also give you this and new missions, new benefits. It all accumulates. And with BM, we have seen it now with the missions. That is to say, we started with purchases, okay, right? So that you don't have to buy much more. It also blocks. So you can buy the same while blocking and you have more, okay? And something else, yes. Now on top of that, you don't have to buy more with what you already have. Redeem, and you will also earn more points. That is to say, it is always about trying to provide that value a little, and I think we are achieving it more and more. So thank you for the support, and we continue at full speed.
And nothing, also remember, well, Giovanni, that Jose is also at the controls, who has been sharing the videos with us. You see him there set up. And nothing, well, on behalf of the whole team, Giovanni, say goodbye and let's go, or else we'll stay here.
In fact, just a reminder that thank you very much, and that some of us will have the opportunity to see you next Thursday at the community point that we will have in Madrid. Some information has been shared via Telegram, so if we can see any of you whenever possible, we have a little special detail. So thank you very much to everyone, and we will see you soon.
And for those who don't know where the Telegram group is, on the BitMe website, you always have it down there in the social media. You can access it.
Well, see you next week, guys, at BitMe. Like, a hug to everyone, and thank you very much, Bit.